Omaha.
Omaha.
How many times have we heard Omaha?
Omaha.
What's the over and under on the number of times I've heard Omaha in the last 72 hours? I love the College Baseball World
You
Series.
know what? I'm also a Broncos fan, so
Yep.
I heard it a few times.
Yeah, and look, that's his second home, he said. It's his Omaha. They interviewed Peyton in the stands. Hey, we got a great show today. Rob Brown, Brendan Martin up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, producing on the remote side. We got Bo Carter, one of the Mount Rushmores of SIDs and sports publicists, with us live from Omaha. Believe it or not, Omaha. Okay,
Omaha.
Ben Troupe and Franz Beard will join us in the second half hour. But a lot to talk about today. SEC Sidelines, Sports Network, and SECU. We talk about the SEC and your favorite team, and that's what we do. So look, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Hit allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Get pen and paper handy because here we come, and look who's the special guest today. Squatch.
Oh, Sasquatch.
We found him at Walgreens.
Sasquatch sighting, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go. Let's do it.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Bo Carter just back from Omaha. Bo, talking to Dave Cody about you, it was like Thursday or Friday, and he said he is on the Mount Rushmore of SIDs. And I said, yeah, Bo Carter is connected across the country from Russellville, Alabama, up in the Quad Cities. But your connections, your relationships, they're book-worthy for damn sure. Let's talk about Omaha, man. I love the College Baseball World Series. Audrey's especially happy as they Vol for life, as is Mark Ham, Cousin Mark, Tom Rainey. We got a lot. Jeff Heimbach. Oh, my God. All these Gary Maloney. I got a lot of Tennessee friends. And they're 2-0. The last time the number one seed won the SEC, won the Men's College World Series was Miami in 1999. What's different about this Tennessee team compared to others? And we're going to get into all the teams that are out there.
Rob, they're loaded. Beam, the kid that pitched yesterday, is from right around Huntsville, Harvest, Alabama. And, Christian Moore Friday night became the second guy in World Series history, besides Jerry Kendall, remember the old Cleveland, Minnesota second baseman and Arizona coach, to hit for the cycle. So, man, it's been one of the most interesting World Series. And the first four games were each decided by one run, including I'm sure Brendan stayed up for it, the 2:15 a.m. Eastern time. I hope you were in Central Time then, Brendan, but 1:15 into 4-hour rain and lightning delay for Saturday night. But one of the most intriguing games. And the Baseball Writers Association was happy. Evan Eschenbach, who got the Stopper of the Year award, got a save the other night for A&M in that game. So we try to look intelligent sometimes.
Well, I watched that game. We had the delay, and I went out and I tried to cut some grass because it's gotten really hot again now. And I watched it, and I was so like when that Texas A&M. Oh my God, he was about 6'5". Let's talk about the Aggies. That is, I got some Aggies watching right now. Casey Goodjohn and some folks out in Texas. But that's 2 of the last 3 years. Jim Schlossnagle. I'm sure you've been around him. Let's talk about the Schloss factor. This guy's really, really a good coach.
Schloss is hilarious. He's really intense all the time. We had an award ceremony for the Stopper and the Dick Hauser Award, which was won by Charlie Condon, the great Georgia All-America player. But,
yeah.
Schloss was all wired up. I patted him on the back, and he jumped about 4 inches. But he was intent. He already had his game face on and was ready to go. So no, the guy's a genius. TCU had been sort of middle of the road. They won a few SWC and Big 12 championship or Mountain West championships. But
Yeah,
he came in and won like 800 games in 18 years. So the guy's just, I mean, he's an amazing coach, and he's being very well compensated down at A&M. So he's earning his keep.
Bo, and you got Tennessee, Tony Vitello's team. I think they're sitting at 177 home runs now. LSU has the all-time mark of 188 and 97. What was going on then with the bats, the pitching, the balls, compared to what's going on today?
Y'all remember it's called Gorilla Ball back there. They after the 96 season, Southern Cal beat Arizona State 26-13 in the finals. That was they missed an extra point in the ninth inning there. That's right. Wow. And after that, the NCAA said this, and the coaches said this has to stop. They took some of the compression factors out of the bats, and I think made the seams a little bit higher in the baseballs. And again, Charlie Conner from Georgia hit 37. That was the most home runs since Lance Berkman hit 41 in 97. The sort of the last year of guerrilla baseball. So it's more of a pitchers and thinkers and small ball, and not totally small ball. Tennessee plays big ball, but it's more of a thinking person's game instead of just going out there and more like Major League Baseball's become strikeout or home run now. So it's what's the batting average? Brendan probably 238 or 240 somewhere in the majors this year. So it's like 1968 all over again before they lowered the mounds. But that's great. That's the beauty of college baseball. You got the rivalries and ACC versus SEC, four teams from each this year. So that it sort of proved what was going on during the season.
Yeah, well, when you're out there, and Brendan and I and everybody watches it, and my phone, I get a lot of texts that go, "What's the difference?" This guy says, "Ask Bo Carter, what's the difference between these SEC teams and the ACC teams? Because it's 4-4."
Yeah, I think really honestly, and they talk about the ratings percentage index and the ELO rating, just the SEC schedule itself is so tough. I mean, you had Vanderbilt and I think Florida and Florida and Vandy were both 13 and 17, which is like two of their worst teams in years at conference play. But Florida, as Brendan knows, they played the toughest schedule, non-conference schedule. Florida State, Miami, midweek games, and so that really that toughened them up for the World Series. They're not out of it at all. If Wichita State lost the first game in '89 and played the last game with 13 players, one guy broke his leg and his arm in the championship game and had to limp around at first base for the last 3 innings. So it's
wow.
Really, it's a fight to the finish. '89. It's our Gene Stevenson, our good friend, Hall of Fame coach from Wichita State, was recounting that the other day. So it's a fight to the end. The great thing is the best 2 out of 3. Texas was undefeated in its bracket in '89. Wichita State had to was 5-1, had to win 5 games out of the losers bracket. And Texas coach, the late Cliff Gustafson, came out of the press conference and said, "Man, in past years we'd be mounting them up and playing a second and if necessary game." He said, "This is strange." So but that's the way it was done for CBS. So for national television. So but it's the best 2 of 3 definitely is the fairest way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it is. And so you talked about 41 home runs was it 97?
Yes.
And that was Lance Berkman for LSU?
Yeah. Who played in the majors for about 14 years,
Wow.
Or Rice, actually, Rice, yeah.
Rice, yeah. All right, Dave Cody texted me and said, "Ask Bo Carter about Cousins, the old Rice coach."
Yeah.
Let's talk. They had the 100-mile-an-hour fastball guy. I remember him back in '97 in the College World Series because I watched it over in Hilton Head. There was like 4 SEC teams in there, and then that guy shows up. It was like this guy coming to your party, Sasquatch.
Yeah, he pitched for the Detroit Tigers for about 5 years, and actually, Dave's like me. Wayne Graham was the coach. He wore 37 because he played for Casey Stengel with the '62 Miracle, not the Miracle Mets, the Mutts, as some people in Brooklyn used to call them.
Yeah.
but Coach Graham Rice won the national championship in 2000, which 10 years before that they had they were losing teams every year. So great. That's a great thing. You might have a Stony Brook in there in Indiana or some team like that. There's not a Cinderella team this year, but Evansville in East Carolina, a couple of people came close.
Yeah. Bo, let's talk about Kentucky. First time ever, they get that walk-off home run. Mincione is a really good coach. And people say, well, how are you going to win in Kentucky? Well, they get their players from everywhere. And I've used this, and I hear this description used a lot. But, Brendan, it's like when you're talking about an ailment in your knee or your joints or your ankles, and you're talking to somebody else, and an orthopedic surgeon happens to be on the Stairmaster next to you, and he goes, son, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. So I'm throwing this to Bo Carter from Russellville, Alabama. Bo, talk about what they call small ball or whatever Kentucky does, because you know what? It's gotten them to Omaha, and they got the walk-off win. Wildcat Nation awaits your answer.
Yeah, this is what Brendan remembers this. They steal bases. They do the hit and run. They'll do the fake bunt slash, where you go down and act like you're going to bunt and then kill the first baseman with a line drive occasionally. But hopefully the guy can duck his head before he gets slaughtered out there. No, but he plays the old kind of station to station baseball, not Earl Weaver station to station, but they move runners around. They use their pitching. Kentucky's got one of the most underrated pitching staffs in the country. They've got about 3 or 4 people that come out of the bullpen, and you can't it's hard to nowadays with all the analytics, it's hard to game plan for a team like that because you can't figure. He might do Tennessee did this the other day. They did an opener and brought their relief pitcher in after 3 hitters. So it really it messes up the scouting report for people like Ron Polk and Skip Bertman. These guys that really had everything buttoned down before a ball game, and then they'll throw a left-hander out of the bullpen and throw. And Mincione's very much like that. He knows how to scramble scouting reports and keep people off balance.
As a neutral observer, and I like this, Perry Mason, if Florida wins today, couldn't they be considered the Cinderella team? That's one of our viewers. I think Perry is a farmer down in the great state of Florida, and people undervalue how many farmers there are. And I'll bet you money that there are a lot of people in the great state of Florida who have purchased the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper, anything from Chad House and ECS House Industries, houseindustriesinc.com, one of our sponsors in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. But that's a good point, Bo, and you're a neutral observer. You were absolutely our Walter Cronkite. So what do you think about that? I mean, because
before the tournament even started, Florida's got to be the Cinderella team because they were 28 and 26 when they got the bid, and just everybody said, oh, they're having to go on the road for both the regional and super regional. Boy, they just came out and wore people out. They again, Kevin O'Sullivan is one. It reminds me a lot of Ron Polk at Mississippi State. The old bulldog. He's got that bulldog look on him all the time, and but the players love him. They'll play the rear ends off for him, and he's again a mastermind. They've got some guys that throw in the upper 90s, and so they've got talent on the team. They just played such a tough schedule that the record did not indicate the kind of team they have.
I mean, when they went to Omaha, I remember Todd Walker and the guys on SEC Network were saying they had 34 wins. In comparison, Tennessee had 55. Now, Tennessee's climbing that ladder. They're at 57. If they win the whole thing, they're going to hit 60. And that's never happened, am I correct, ever with an SEC team?
I think I'm trying to remember when you Rob, Alabama played 84 games. I think they played like 50, and then we were talking about San Diego State played an 89 game schedule. Wichita State played an 87 game, and about 3 years later, the NCAA said, "Nope, this is it. We're going to go back to a 56 regular season game." Which, if you play in the tournaments, you'll get up to 3 or 4 regional games. To super regional, you're going to end up playing up to close to 70 games. But that's I'm trying to remember. LSU had a couple of 50, 55 win teams.
Yes,
and Mississippi State had 52. I think their championship game team in 2021 won 53 games. But it's a 61 season these days is just phenomenal.
Well, Okay, and I love this Perry Mason. He said, "Thank you, Rob. I'm a farmer. We live in Memphis. I'm over here at the farm right now at the cherry farm, surrounded by. We got crop dusters going 50 feet over the house. It's like, and you ought to see some of these turns they make. It is unbelievable. These guys are phenomenal pilots, and we had one of our legendary farmers, Mr. John A. Brenner, died at 97 years old. Had his funeral over the weekend. I think he had 24 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You talk about phenomenal. Up until just last week, he was still out in his truck, riding around, checking out the land. The best people in the world, the agrarians, folk. Go back and read about the fugitive poets back in the 1920s at Vanderbilt. You know who I'm talking about, Bo Carter, is the South. We better be careful about leaving the land behind and going into these big cities because we're going to get soft. You know what I'm talking about, people. Love our farmers. Donnie Raines, Robert Hill, all these great people around here. We're surrounded by them. Bo, couple of more. I mean, and I want you to stay on with Franz Beard and Ben Troupe when they come on, if you will. This is awesome talk about baseball. All right, we haven't talked much about some of the best players you've seen out there, but would you say, okay, I know of a great player who was a two-way guy, a pitcher and an outfielder who could really hit, Tim Hudson at Auburn, who had a 14, 17-year career in the majors. Jack Caglione, this guy is like Tim Hudson. This guy is a high character guy from what I gather. He's so marketable, it's ridiculous. And he's 22 years old. Let's talk about Caglione and what it's like for a guy to do both things at this level.
Boy, it's pretty amazing. You know, he came out of Tampa Jesuit High where Dave Magadan, the great Alabama, who still hosts
yes.
the SEC batting, and Caglione sitting like 415, 34 homers, close to 75 or 80 RBI, slugging percentage near 1,000. The guy's and then 5-2 record on the mound. Last year was 7-3. So this guy throws hard, left-hander. He's about 6'6" and about 235. He could play tight end for him too, Rob, if they needed.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
a great kid. Really, I mean, these days and times, you had a guy named Brooks Kiesnick who won the Dick Howser, a great player from Texas in the early '90s or whatever, that pitched and played position in in Major League Baseball. And you and I remember Bob Gibson, Don Drysdale used to pinch hit for people back in the '60s and '70s. So it's not unheard of. But Caglione's definitely a throwback player.
Well, all right. Here's a question, and I like this. Bo, can you comment on that horrible ordeal of the Aggies fan hollering at Sully? I think it cost Florida a challenge that may have changed the game outcome. I just remember seeing that. I think I went to get a drink or something. It was a long game, but add some details.
Yeah, I'm just watching. It couldn't see the whole thing, but the fans are right on top of you down there. In fact, they're right behind the dugout, and they've got like a little buffer zone. I think they have like 50 or 60 what they call friendly tickets right back there. But that game,
friendly,
there's unfriendly.
Like the friendly market.
Yeah, we wish at that mostly, obviously for Florida fans and parents and stuff. But at that time, it rained, people were scattered out, people were just sitting wherever they could find a spot, and people got behind the Florida dugouts. So a lot of little verbal exchanges going on there. But it's funny about the Omaha is the nice, Omaha, as Peyton Manning used to say, as you were talking about. Omaha is one of the friendliest venues for the NCAA tournaments. It goes on for 9, 10, 11 days, and the fans the people in Omaha were all cheering for Florida and Kentucky because they're sort of the perceived. Kentucky had never been to the tournament before, so they're sort of a sentimental favorite, and they love the Gators. And for years and years, the Omaha people love Texas, I guess, because the swashbuckling. Then when Texas and Nebraska got in the Big 12 together, they sort of went the other direction.
I can't imagine why.
A little football rival, and Texas won the first Big 12 championship game. So all of a sudden the love for Texas disappeared. But no, that's a real anomaly up there that a fan would jump on a coach like that, because they police the thing really well. They've got security presence all over the stadium. So I'm sure the guy probably got kicked out after the verbal exchange.
Tell you what they should have done. Should have had Ben Troupe there with him. I don't think anybody's going to yell at Ben Troupe.
He would have Ben would have taken the guy and taken him up to the 14th.
But Ben would have been kind.
He would have. He would have just taken him by the elbow and said, "Come on up.
You're going to zip it, and you're going to zip it up and enjoy yourself." You know. But Kevin O'Sullivan, that dude looks. You're right. He looks like a rock. I think he hits the weights, man. But 9 of 14 years at Florida, he's gotten the Gators to the World Series. That's incredible. Now we think about the great coaches. Rod Ditto at Southern Cal, 11 or 12 national championships in the Men's College World Series in Omaha. Augie Garrido at Texas. Texas been to the College World Series 37 times. Oklahoma's been a bunch. I like to comment Kerry Jones about Kentucky. The coach, Nick Mingione, good Christian man. He had his son out there. Like Butch Thompson always says, what's better than being in Omaha on Father's Day? You know? And, you know, even if your father's gone on to heaven, it's a place where you just feel connect. There's a temporal connection. Talk about that atmosphere at Omaha, because the city just absolutely hugs this event like it's a bear hug of baseball love. It's just, I love the people of Nebraska.
You're right. It's amazing. The tailgate thing out in the parking lot, Rob, is like a football game. You got probably like 600 tents and everything out there, and the fans, like I said, anyway, come on over, have a hot dog, have a beer with us, or cold beverage or whatever.
Have some brats.
And then one of the other great storylines we hadn't talked about, Florida State. Of course, the Mike Martin, one of the greatest all-time people, got Florida State to the World Series, I think 21 of their 23 times they made it up there. This is the 24th trip. They've never won the national championship. They've been like this close, many times. But they're, Lane Jarrett's the coach now, and former Florida State shortstop, coach at Notre Dame. And his son, LT Garrett, is assistant coach at NC State. I think that's the first time they've ever had a father-son on opposing teams in the NCAA World Series. So it's kind of I saw Ben McDonald was kidding there around the other night. He said that Lincoln told him that there was a real anxious mama during the Georgia NC State national or regional super regional championship, and Mrs. Jarrett was pretty was biting a lot of nails for that one. But she got her husband and her son up there. So. Ben Troupe, I know, can talk a little College World Series.
I think Ben may have just heard me when I said they should have had Ben right there next to Kevin O'Sullivan when that A&M fan. And look, we've all got fans like that. Trust me, we know that. But I would have had Ben next to me and said, Ben, would you go be the ambassador to that? But Ben is a lover. He ain't a fighter. Ben is a peacemaker. I got to talk to Ben Saturday night. We were over here at the farm watching the sunset over what it looks like the Hidden Valley over here. It is so green over here. Watching the sunset. Audrey's having a glass of wine, and I've got my turtle box on, which I got at Hewlett and Dunn out on the square in Collierville, cranking up George Jones talking about that $3 bill in a hot Corvette, watching the sunset, and I'm talking to Ben. It's hard to beat that. Ben, jump in this conversation. As a competitor, what about the downtime? And, okay, at this level, you're so excited. You've prepared for this. The game went, I bet the Florida guys and the A&M guys on the Eastern time didn't get to bed till 3 or 4 in the morning, okay? What do you do mentally? Bo's been out in Omaha all weekend to prepare for that next game. Today, it's elimination game. Florida's been there before.
They're gonna have to unlearn some things. I mean, sometimes, when you make it to this level. When I say this level, so you got college baseball, and you got the college baseball World Series. It's a different. Most of these players never get to this level. Win or lose, you don't want it to be because of something you could have just eliminated for a couple of days. Because I get it now. Downtime. There's a difference in playing video games because it's downtime and playing video games because I got a habit. There's a difference in because your teammates need you. Your teammates need you to sacrifice something that only you know what you sacrifice, and that got to be the thing you really want to do. Because when you look back on and say, No one wants that pain of, oh, if I would have just done this. Doesn't mean I'm a win the game, but you know, every time before Florida played Georgia in my college career, we always had a meeting with the players on the. Usually, it's the coaches bring us up. The players always say it's a different player saying, "Look, fellas, just do it for the next man. Like, don't do it for you because we selfish as individuals just by nature. When you talk about this level, A&M is good enough to beat anybody. Florida got beat, but losing to a better team is one thing. Losing to a team because I didn't sacrifice something, because only I'm gonna know. So I think for them, that downtime is the hardest part. As a person that didn't understand how prestigious Monday Night Football was when I was in the NFL, that most teams never play on it. It's to wait all day to play. It takes a lot out of you. But man, you got to turn it to almost like a coach, man. You got to have a real, blind zone type mentality, because if you lose, you lose. Like if I lose this team in this tournament, I mean, any team in this tournament can find a way to get it done. But if you're Florida, you saying, look, no one thought we would even make it to this point. Obviously, Texas A&M was a good team, but what can I sacrifice right now to put us in the best position to be ready? Because it seems like the elimination games bring out something better in those teams when you in an elimination game. But Florida knows, man, it's all or nothing. And I think that, Cags and company, that they got to have a team on them. Hey, if y'all got to come sit in the same room, let's just talk to each other. Do something, because people say don't do the same things you did to get here. No. What got us here ain't gonna keep us here. We got to do something. We don't got to do nothing outlandish now. We don't got to do nothing crazy. But I mean, Coach O'Sullivan, Coach Kevin said he's been in this situation. He'll have them boys mind right. Because the one thing about it is, win or lose, you don't want to hear that. I got to have them mentally ready to play. Coaches do have players mentally ready to play. That's why you here. It's up to them to do the other part. Coaches can only do so much, and I think that's the part they got to take it upon themselves to do.
I agree with you. And Bo Carter, along that line, and Perry, you're right. And I got a lot of Aggie friends and a lot of Aggies that watch this show. You got one guy that ain't, that. Bo, you live in Texas. I think you probably are around a couple of Aggies. They've showed up there in Omaha. Which fan base has shown up, in your opinion, just being there over the last 3 or 4 days, the biggest?
A&M and Tennessee are right up there. I saw a lot of people drove up because it's very expensive. Friends and I've been over a little out of the pocketbook to fly to Omaha. It's not a lot of people. Well, baseball, several people fly to Kansas City and get a rental car. It's like a 2-hour drive. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Plus you got a car to go around. But no, A&M and Tennessee are very, very well. If you remember the years that Mississippi State and Ole Miss won it, I think they had like maybe 18 or 20,000 people.
Yeah,
a friend of mine bought tickets for his wife and 3 kids. I think it cost him $3,000. But he said, "We're broke, but we're happy."
Hey, that's okay. I mean, and I think the psychology, Franz Beard, of winning is like, how do you handle a loss? And now you're in an elimination game. If you're going into that game scared, you're not going to play well. I mean, scared, you're never going to win a fight. But also being scared, I'll never forget standing in the doorway of a C-130 at Fort Benning doing a story on jump school, and that black cat, that's what they call the jump masters. He stood up there and he said, he told me, he said afterwards, he said, hey, when they say hook up, shuffle to the door, jump right out, count to 4. If my chute don't open wide, I got a reserve by my side. If my reserve should fail me too, look out ground, I'm a coming through. Bury me in a lean and rest, tell my mom I done my best. He said, if you're not scared, you're not going to be thinking about what you need to do to live, but you can't let fear keep you from doing what you got to do to win. Franz Beard, the Iron Duke, has arrived, says Perry Mason, who lost only one case, but it was overturned on appeal. Hamilton Berger continues his losing streak. He's like the Washington Generals, that team that plays the Globetrotters. Franz, good morning.
Good morning. Florida, I think, is in a pretty good situation, even though they did lose, because if you remember in Stillwater, they had to fight off elimination 3 consecutive games.
Yeah.
So They've been there and done that. I think it's going to be a more difficult time for North Carolina State. The pressure really is on them. Nobody wants to be. They're looking at an ACC that is depleting quickly. Every single ACC team in this tournament has a loss. So every single ACC team is looking at elimination. So the pressure's all on them, and they're feeling it from the conference. They're feeling it from personally. And Florida is the team, as Ben mentioned, that shouldn't have been there in the first place. So it's, we're playing with house money in Florida. That's kind of the attitude. Caglione is pitching. And here's the wild card in this whole thing. I think Jack Caglione, I've listened to the interviews with him. He thinks every single time he's in this uniform is precious. And he realizes that every time and from here on out could be the last time he puts on that uniform with that Florida written across the front. And I think we'll see a great effort from him on the mound today. And he has homered in 8 of his starts. So I think that that looks very, very good on that respect. Florida, goodness, I look at the ball game the other night, and how many chances to win and couldn't get a hit. Now I will say this too. I'm hoping that we don't draw the same home plate umpire, because quite frankly, we had a guy who kept taking the screenshots of called strike threes. The two called strike threes on Colby Shelton were this far off the plate, and it shows it. The home plate umpire was on left-handed hitters on the outside. The outside, he was very, very generous. Reminded me of Tiny Greg, if you remember him back in the day. I had Tiny in the Southern League, and he was worse then, and how he got to be a major league umpire, I'll never know. For one thing, he weighed 400 pounds, and
hence the name Tiny.
Yes,
hence the name Tiny. But Tiny's attitude was, if the ball is not wider than my body, and his body was like on 2.5 feet on either side of the home plate, if the ball is equivalent to my body on either side of the plate, it's a strike. And I think this guy kind of had that. And I'm not saying that's the fault, because Florida had opportunities to win the ball game, and my gosh, Cade Curlin's, I hats off to Jace Laviolette, who made one heck of a play. If he's not 6'6", that's a home run.
Wow. Yeah. I got to throw in at you. I'm gonna start doing some rapid fire stuff, because I got a bunch of questions. Hey, people, use the YouTube or Facebook, but I'll take texts and read them as well. But Bo Carter, I'll start with you. I'll go Bo, Ben, Franz. Bo, when you look at these matchups, you talk about NC State. Remember a couple of years ago, the whole team had to go home because they had the dreaded virus. Oh, God. I mean, but they just keep coming back. You can't get them away. What's the storyline going on in Omaha right now that the national media hadn't picked up on, but Bo Carter has, and our viewers are going to be able to hear about?
Well, thank goodness no more COVID testing this year. That's gonna,
yes.
Keep NC State. Speaking of Bull, Elliott Avent, the North Carolina coach, NC State coach, is kind of the old country guy, Dizzy Dean type philosopher or whatever. And I don't think the players are very respectful. Let me say that they're a little bit scared of him or whatever. So if he doesn't beat the Gators today, he'll leave his mark on Omaha. I guess I saw him at the Drover Steakhouse scarfing down some steaks the other night.
Yeah.
But anyway,
no,
but that's and the men's young thing in Kentucky. Really, we talked about it a little bit, but that's I'm trying to think, French, except for maybe Yale and California in 47-40. I'm trying to remember if any team's ever gone to Omaha the first time and won it. So that would be a it'd be a great storyline. And they've got that really good small ball team that really moves station to station. But
they're gonna be fun to watch.
And Fran's hit on the head, and Ben's talked about it too. The umpiring needs to be more consistent. One guy got hit in the chin yesterday with a foul ball, and had to stay in the game, but he looked like his jaw was about almost broken or whatever too. So got to admire him for the courage, but you wonder about. And interesting, there's only one guy that's specifically a Southeastern Conference regular umpire, a guy named Scott Klein from Nashville, who's assigned to the tournament. So they've got him from all over the place. But I think 7 of the 8 there may be one new guy. 7 of the 8 have worked World Series before, so hopefully the pressure monster doesn't get to them these next couple of days.
Ben Troupe, you're watching these games. Kentucky, first time ever, but it's not the first time they've been on a big stage. These kids have been playing baseball since they were little. Tennessee, the long ball, they're a threat. When you watch Tennessee and Florida State Friday night, Ben, we're going to be this rapid fire, but in my mind, I was going, Tennessee's going to win the game. But I didn't think it'd be in such dramatic fashion. What about these games at this level? Are the players walking around with nauseous stomachs, competitors as you are? Or I think the teams like Tennessee, they have fun. The ones that are laughing are going to do better.
I think the thing about these games that make you enjoy baseball is the fact that these late game theatrics. I mean, no game was out of. You talk about Tennessee, Florida State. You talk about a Florida State team that's been to. They've been to the prom, or they've been to a lot of weddings, right? But they usually watching them. They're not the one getting married. They trying to see can they finish the deal. Tennessee is a team that I think a couple of years ago it was probably one of their best teams. You got 2 teams that saying, "Hey man, can we win it all?" We've been good. Florida State has been really consistent over the years. Can they be a bride this year? Can Tennessee be a bride this year? Because if a Kentucky team does the unthinkable, the SEC has been really, really good in baseball the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you talk about a brand new newcomer like Kentucky. I mean, they're a basketball school, as noted when Calipari was there. The football team has been better as of late. But Kentucky baseball might be, has the best chance to win a natty. But I think these late game theatrics, I think these late game heroics. And like I say, I mean, you talk about not being able to pull for nobody. I'm not pulling for Tennessee. I'm like, both teams can lose. Like, no, one team has to win. But shout out to all the teams still left in.
Yeah. Friends, here it is. A lot of people, and they're right. Perry Mason, again, not one of the Golden Spikes guys, made it to Omaha. And Cags did. Simply fantastic. And I think, like you said, 8 or 9 times when he has started a game as a pitcher, he's also hit a home run.
Yeah.
I threw a comparison earlier because I remember Tim Hudson at Auburn, went to Russell County Community College over in Phoenix City, transferred over to Auburn. Great hitter, outfielder, and pitcher, long career. Any similarities between him and Cags other than Caglione's a lot taller than he is?
Well, the one thing I'll say is this. I don't think there's anything we've ever seen that compares with Jack Caglione. I really and truly don't. And I say that not because I'm a Gator and I've seen him play probably live 90 times, but the reason I say that is because I don't know anybody I've ever seen who swings harder than he does, and yet still has the plate discipline that he has. The swing and miss is really, really rare with him. I mean, he is not a swing and miss guy. He usually gets at least a piece of the ball. And he's got the opposite field power, too. He has learned to beat the shift. I don't know if you saw Saturday night. Those 2 hits he had were absolute bullets. Both of them 100. One of them 117, the other one 118 off the bat. Yeah. I mean,
time out. Real quick question. I don't mean to interrupt because I want to ask you this. They put on their slugging percentage 1,000%. Is that just in the series, the regional super in Omaha, or is that this entire year?
That's the entire year.
It's amazing.
I elaborate on that. That's I can't even respond. Only for fans do it. I'm. That's unbelievable.
Well,
I've never seen that.
They have this thing called OPS, which is your slugging percentage and your on base percentage, which also includes your walks, your hit by pitch, etc.
Yeah.
Like that. And he's been hit by a pitch a bunch of times. He got hit by a pitch the other night. He's got 55 walks, of which 30 of them are intentional.
Yep. Correct.
And the reason his walk rate is so low is because if the ball gets over the plate, he's hitting it.
Yeah.
He's not swinging and missing at it. He is hitting it. And he is we haven't seen anything like this guy. I mean, when we say generational talent, he is a generational talent. Charlie Condon's a really fine ball player at Georgia. Laviolette is a really fine ball player at A&M. Christian Moore is a really fine ball player at Tennessee. They are not this kid.
No.
This kid is 6'6". He's 250 pounds, and he's skinny.
Yeah.
When he fills out his body, he's a 20-year-old kid who's having fun. Yeah. And when his body fills out, which it's going to do, 516 feet might be just his routine fly balls.
Yeah.
Because his swing and miss rate is just so. People say, "Well, wait till he gets up to the pros." Well, guess what? Most of these pitchers that he's facing, he's going to be facing at the next level. I mean, the SEC is the equivalent of AA baseball right now.
Yeah. All right, let me throw this one to that's an incredible commentary. Caglianone's 250. I would think he's 215, 220. Bo Carter, if you would, along the lines of what he just said, people think there's this big difference between, when you get to the pros, Francis, right, it's going to carry over. It's the same people you're going up against. But I'm curious because there's a lot of chatter out there. I feel like I'm at NORAD, in the mountain out in Colorado listening to chatter, but a lot of chatter. But why, and you are on the Mount Rushmore of sports information directors, but you were connected with the national writers like nobody. Why was Jack Caglianone left off the Golden Spikes Award? I mean, just, again, that's people have the right to their opinion. They're like elbows. Everybody's got a couple of them, and just curious.
That really is puzzling me. He was one of the 5 finalists for the Dick Hauser Trophy, and I'll say this: voting's confidential, but he had quite a ton of support from writers from all over the country for that one. But I agree with Franz. This guy's, he's going to pinch hit and he might sell peanuts in the stands in Major League Baseball in about a year or two. He's right there in the middle of it. But no, I totally. It's picked by a group called USA Baseball, which is the group that unfortunately picks the Olympic team too when they bring baseball back in 2028. So I hope they use a little bit better judgment in future years. Just really kind of a anomaly there.
Ben, I got to ask you now, as a player not too long ago, you look at these guys out there in the World Series. Every team's got difference makers on them, but you look at a team like Kentucky, it's like everybody, Tennessee, everybody 1 through 9 can hit. They've got 4 guys. They got one with 19. That would be 5 with 20 or more home runs. Talk about that locker room, the dugout. You know how the Braves are. Alex Anthopoulos, no cancer culture in the dugout. Tony Vitello, a couple of years ago, you referred to it. That team may have been one of the more disliked teams in college sports, but that's not me saying it. That's just was the opinion. But talk about those dugouts and the cultures of these teams. It's not an accident that you get there.
That's what it starts with. In college, culture is everything, because the thing about baseball, baseball is different than any other sport because you really deal with each other a lot. You're around each other in different type ways. And when you got, 4 or 5 guys with 20 home runs, that means that they got a lot of stars. You don't need a superstar with that many stars on your team. A Cags knows every time he comes like that, I got to be a difference maker. Like, I got to do something because I'm the heart and soul of my team, even though Florida has a great culture as well. When you got 4 or 5 guys with 20+ home runs, that means that it's anybody's night. And that's what separates it. Culture is college athletics. the best teams have the best culture. Period.
Yeah.
Like a couple of years ago, Tennessee, they was disliked, but they was well loved amongst each other. And Tennessee did not mind telling you how good this team was, but it don't mean a thing if you don't get the ring, man. And as great as they are, if you don't finish, you're going to talk to the team like it's going to be a what if. The thing about sports is you either had a great season or a what if, or what could have been. And that's the unfortunate part is when you got that good of a team or great of a team Tennessee does, they're saying to themselves, hey, man, we was able to come back, a couple of nights ago and what we was able to do. We're not, as the series goes on, you're not going to get those opportunities. So, I mean, shout out to them, though. To have staying power in the SEC now in baseball is the hardest thing to do because obviously there's a team out there in Baton Rouge. They're good enough every year to beat anybody. Now, they didn't have the year this year, but it's going to be, like I said, Tennessee is dangerous. Obviously, Florida State, they was able to, come back and get a big win. Florida got to get one. Kentucky, this their first year in it. Every year you get to say to yourself, it's a who's who type thing. But shout out to Tennessee, though, coming back because sometimes in baseball or any sport, you lose when you got one of your best teams. It takes years to get back. It takes years but they got back and like I said, am I going to have to deal with them Tennessee fans? Yes, I have to deal with them. Obviously, I have to deal with them in football season. Now you got baseball season. If Tennessee does the unthinkable, and France knows this, if Tennessee does the unthinkable and wins it, I'm going to have to cut my Twitter off at least for a week. Because I talk so much trash to them, they think that I don't. Listen, I talk trash, period. It has nothing to do with
Ben, you're not a trash talker.
No, but what I'm saying is, but Tennessee gives you every reason. Tennessee athletics is like Duke basketball. In their mind, Duke basketball think we the creme even if they don't win it. Tennessee, you think Tennessee calls themselves the everything school. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. France knows they made a video. The team that lost 2 years ago, they made a video. They made a video of all those teams. None of those teams won no national championships. But, they was like, we're the everything school. I'm like, I don't know if they know what everything means in the sense of how we see it. But if they do get it done, I mean, it will be because they had staying power. I don't know how many of the carryovers are still from that team from a couple of years ago. But like I said, Tennessee has found a way to be relevant in an SEC baseball, league that's gotten. I mean, you talk about Texas A&M, you talk about Ole Miss, you talk about Florida, you talk about LSU. Now you talk about Tennessee. Now you talk about Kentucky. Hey man, what can I say, man? Shout out to Greg Sankey, man. This dude got more freaking flyer miles than anybody on the planet because he can't stay home.
Yeah, he does. Friends, I got to throw this at you. We hear that term used a lot, unbelievable. And I listen, again, when I'm biking and hiking and driving all over, I listen to a lot of motivation and psychology, deal. And one of them said, stop using the term unbelievable. That means you never believed it would happen. But I see what we say. I know how we say it because, like, my kids use the word ginormous. I thought it was enormous, but it's ginormous. So it's part of the nomenclature now.
More enormous than enormous.
Yes, ginormous. So, friends, let's talk about it right now. And we'll do it, fast-paced going because there's a lot to cover. This matchup with Florida today, Caglione on the mound, a lefty, he's throwing in the high 90s and still hitting like that. We know what happens in the majors. You'll be one or the other, but, I mean, sometimes they can hit. But let's talk about the Gators matchup tonight.
Well, Florida's got three guys they got to keep off the base paths. I mean, just particularly Cozart. Their catcher at North Carolina State is the heart and soul of the team. And you've got to, if he gets it going, North Carolina State is really, really tough to beat because that team just seems to follow his pulse. And if his heartbeat's going fast, so's everybody else.
Yeah.
Their pitching is what should be a concern. They're going to start a guy with an ERA of 7, and that means he's thrown 21 pitches that left the yard. So that means that those first 4 hitters for those 3 of the first 4 hitters for Florida are the kind that step up to the plate thinking, I'm going to take you out of the yard. So his only advantage is he's left-handed. Caglione actually hits lefties better than he does righties. That's hard to imagine, but he does.
Wow.
And I think for Florida, it's going to come down to can Caglione throw strikes. If he's throwing strikes, Florida wins. If he's walking people, Florida loses. And I think with North Carolina State, their guy has got to keep the ball in the yard.
Yeah. Friends, I love it. And that was quick. That was a minute and 23 seconds. I love this fast pace because Franz nailed it. Bo Carter, any other matchups that you can break down like what Franz just did? Because we're all going to be watching baseball today and tonight. And I think those guys on SEC Network, Todd Walker and David DeLucia, great job. Peter Burns is kind of emceeing it. But I love that interview they did last night with Christian Moore. Talk about Christian Moore as a player. He's hitting a lot of home runs. But Tennessee 1 through 9, who is the one guy they've got to have perform? I don't think there is.
No, I think they're balanced, just like you're saying. Moore is unbelievable. From Brooklyn, New York, of all things. So, I mean, maybe
sure, he grew up dreaming of being a Vol.
Yes, Franz has seen a few kids out of Brooklyn, that made it. Lou Gehrig, and sort of Manhattan area. But anyway, there's not really a bad hitter. That's the beauty of Tennessee's team. I mean, you can't pitch around anybody, and I know y'all hit on the head. Caglione's been intentionally walked over 30 times this year. So and that's a peril for opposing pitchers too. So that Kentucky Texas A&M game tonight, winner's bracket, really intrigues me because the winner in all by percentages probably will get Tennessee in the championship, barring a lot of upsets. So, and North Carolina's kind of looming out there a little bit. They lost a tough one in Tennessee, but they're very talented, very deep, and the commentators pointed out yesterday they used a lot of relief pitchers to keep their starters and the middle inning guys fresh. So they're kind of sitting out there licking their chops.
Yeah, Ben, looking at this right now, what the coolest thing about Jack Caglione is not being on the Golden Spikes finalist award. He can go out there and have the game of his life today, or somebody else will do it. Isn't that the sweetest revenge is success?
Of course. And I was blessed enough to be able to sit down with Jack Caglione. Like I said, when you get a nickname in college, most people get nicknames in the pros. Yeah. I mean, he's Cags, like Fran said, and this is, yes, I mean, it's always going to be some level of bias when I'm talking about them boys from Gainesville, but Jack can do it all. Jack can do it all. I think the thing about him is he has a humble confidence. He's very humble, but he's confident because he knows you give him anything over the plate. I mean, most of us that play baseball, the reason why we couldn't play because all we do is swing for the fences. Forget all that trying to get on base. That's what Jack does. But it works for him because, like Fran said, he's swinging for the fences, but he's still his plate. He strikes. Think about this: if I strike fear when I step into the batter's box, then I'm striking fear because I'm stepping on the mound. You cannot hide from Jack. And most guys just want to find a position to go out there and be a player. Jack is that guy, man. And yes, he wants the awards, but he wants that ring because he's done it all in college. I mean, Tampa, Florida, Plant High School. I mean, playing for Coach Kevin O'Sullivan to do what he did last year, with back-to-back 30 home run season. I don't think it's ever been done. He's done it all, and like I said, rings are team distinctions, not player distinctions. But I'm like, friends, I don't want to see Jack go. Jack is different. I mean, listen. People say, man, how do you know who he is? His name is J-A-C. He took the K off. Why? Because he knocked the hell out of it. He ain't got no K in his name. He just knocked it out.
Yeah.
Alan Caglione.
Listen, Cags can do it all, but I will say this. The College World Series is similar to the World Series and playoff baseball. It's why you love the best baseball is played in the postseason, both in college
it is.
and in the pros. So people always say, I said, listen, your granddaddy introduced you to baseball because that's how you get away from grandma and the game lasts 4 hours. You just sit out there and drink beer in the sun and fall asleep.
That's right.
You want to love baseball, watch it in the postseason because that's when the best players show themselves.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right, we got a few more minutes left. It's kind of like the old Tonight Show when that music starts coming up from Doc Severinsen and the band. We'll have to knock it off. But Franz, quickly, got to ask this question from Perry Mason. Anything on Gator football recruiting? I know they had a big weekend in Gainesville. They had a big one in Auburn. I don't know where these guys are coming from, but any movement in the aisles in Gainesville, Florida, as Jack Crystal would say.
It's going to be a really good week for Florida, I believe, as far as commitments in football. I think we're going to have a signing in basketball with Jeremiah Johnson, a guy that originally signed with Oklahoma State. But when they changed coaches, he got a release from his LOI.
Yeah.
6'3" combo guard who can literally can jump out of the gym. And they're going to get a commitment, I believe, this week from a very familiar name, C.J. Ingram. His brother's name is Cornelius. Only C.J., I think, is going to go the basketball route, which, if he had to do it all over again, I think Cornelius would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
He was a high school quarterback. C.J.'s a high school quarterback. C.J.'s won 2 straight state championships as a quarterback. Florida wants to turn him into a wide receiver, but I think his heart is in basketball. 24 points, 8.5 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 3.7 steals a game. And I think he's going to commit. He's a 2025 guy. Todd Golden, I can tell you right now, is putting the pieces together that Florida is going to be a superpower in basketball.
Yeah.
It coming to you very soon. Baseball, Kevin O'Sullivan is probably, well, he's going to lose Kaggs. He's going to lose Shelton. I feel certain that Shelton's going to get drafted higher than he should be. He strikes out too much. He's going to get drafted, I think, in the second round, and he strikes out too much to be a second rounder, as far as I'm concerned. He's not a true shortstop. But anyway, that's the Reader's Digest condensed version. Florida signed a softball player a softball pitcher that's 6'2", and it was 17-6 in All Colonial Athletic Association.
Well, listen, I mean, the Cliff Note version, man. This is awesome stuff. All right, now we're going to be watching a lot of baseball today, and I'm with you, Ben. And I think about the Braves. Acuna, this is the second time in the last 3 or 4 years he's injured himself. I hope he comes back from it. But I think college baseball, the popularity is doing nothing but helping Major League Baseball. That's just what I think. Hey, Franz Beard, catch him, the Iron Duke, GatorBetMedia.com. Ben Troupe, 84 Reasons podcast. Folks, I listened to 3 of the podcasts Saturday afternoon. Does a great job engaging his guests and letting them go and painting stories. Bo Carter on the Mount Rushmore of SIDs. Hey, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world with the most blessed people. Take action every day and find excuses to win. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Tell friends, family, and neighbors. See you tomorrow. All right.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.